Oh dear, the usual. Welcome to the show. I want to take this opportunity to wish everyone Happy New Year for 2022 and the best of health. For those who are following out of Barbados, in the US, Canada, and the UK, welcome, welcome. We've had quite a productive year thus far, and I know many have been following what has been going on in Barbados. I know you have missed us from time to time. I think the last show we had was sometime in December, and we've had a very good following. And we've encouraged persons to follow our Facebook page as well as our new Instagram page. We know that if you missed a show, you would go to our YouTube page to see what's happening and what was the last thing we did. Of course, Lionel has sent his regards. He's now in the middle of a move, so we hope that that move will be productive. He's going from St. Thomas to St. Joseph, so we know that's going to be a bit of a task for him. And Charles has been quite busy with the winter season that we now have in Barbados, with those cruise ships coming into Barbados, with all protocols being followed. Of course, we know that those of you who have been following what's been happening in Barbados, we now have a new Republic Prime Minister. Yes, the Right Honorable Mia Amor Motley has been re-elected to the government with her party and has wiped the slate clean once again with 30 seats. Now, we're going to get to that in a bit. So, we know a lot of persons had a lot of opinions on what's been happening politically, but we want to take this time before we get into the jive of everything that has just happened on the 19th of January 2022. We want to extend our condolences to two stalwarts within the acting arena. The first would be Betty White. Yes, Betty White would have been 100 this month, but she passed away 2 weeks before her birthday. She was 99 and was in the preparation of actually doing, I think it was a show or something to that effect. But we know she was very instrumental in a lot of things, and we would truly miss her. She's very much well known for her role in the Golden Girls as Rose, I think it was. I haven't seen the picture for a little while, so it could be a bit daunting. I promised myself to go back and start watching a bit of it so I can remember exactly um, what she really did in her shows. She was actually quite funny, very, very funny. And I think she also did her last movie where she starred in the Prodigal, was it the Prodigal Son? No, the Proposal.
Name for me just because I had hairy legs. What they call Rose with the hairy legs.
As long as there's been TV, Betty White's been on it. As she told Katie Couric,
If you have one good series, it's a blessing. Two good series is unusual. Three is, where do you get privileges like that? I taste it every minute.
That's why you're always avoiding me, because you know if you get too close, you're afraid the little pilot light of desire that flickers within you might turn your whole oven on.
beginning in 1973, White portrayed happy homemaker slash man-eater Sue Ann Nivens on the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
She was an obvious choice because she's so gifted. She was not an obvious choice because she's antithetical to the character.
James L. Brooks was the show's co-creator.
Oh, my poor
There's a great bit.
She really, really had a long standing in comedy, and we want to extend condolences to those persons who would have been close to her. And that means that all of the Golden Girls have passed. She was the last that was alive. And we don't want to forget Sir Sidney Poitier. Yes. Sir Sidney Poitier, the first black actor to be awarded an Oscar. And he passed away on the 6th of January. He was considered to be a Bahamian American. He was actually born in Florida. He was premature, wasn't expected for 3 months before, and his parents were lived on an island called Cat Island in the Bahamas, and they used to sell tomatoes. Um, so his father, I think at the time they said, worked as a cab driver in Nassau, and they've done some research on his name Poitier and thinks that it came from an ancestor who migrated from Haiti. He has quite an in-depth history, but what we know him well in is to serve with love and guess who's coming to dinner and in the heat of the night. These three films really made it big for him in the 60s and dealt with a lot of issues pertaining to race and race relations. He received a Golden Globe and a BAFTA nominations for his performance in the last film, and in a poll, he was voted US top box office star. He also was afforded the opportunity to direct various films. Stir Crazy, which starred Richard Pryor, who another black actor, passed away. And he also starred in Shoot to Kill, which is a 1988 film, and Sneakers. He was granted a knighthood by the Queen of Elizabeth in 1974, and he also received the Golden Globe Cecil B. DeMille Award. In 95, he received the Kennedy Center Honor, and he was also the Bahamian ambassador to Japan from 1997 to 2007. I would like to share something with you, which I hope you will be able to see. I was afforded a long time ago the opportunity to meet Sir Sidney. Um, let's see if I can find it. I think it was 1997, 98, around that time. And he, let's see if I can get that there. It's strange when you're manning a lot on your own right now. And not sure if you're getting to see that. It's a very old photograph. Let's try again. Got so much things here to do just to see if I can get it done with you. Um, let's see. Yeah, very old photograph. I met Sir Sidney at the Hilton Barbados, the old Hilton Barbados, and that's when I used to work in the airline. I was fortunate to help his aide de camp, who was trying to sort his flight out to Jamaica, and whatever transpired, I think it was an emergency for something or the other, and I was fortunate enough to have had the opportunity to be invited to the cocktail party that was being held at the Barbados Hilton. So, your dear Mary had the opportunity to meet Sir Sidney Poitier. He will be missed. He was very instrumental in the Black movement. He was very friendly with Harry Belafonte and many others who looked at going away from segregation and stuff like that. So, lots of persons who might not know who he was or what he stood for take a chance to look at all the films that he's played in. He was on Broadway and stuff like that. And he couldn't read. He could not read. He was taught how to read by a worker who he used to help when he was a dishwasher. So he didn't come up with a silver spoon, be that as it may. He really and truly worked his way through in an area that was very difficult for black actors in his time. A lot of people who recognize his work are in one of our special actors, Denzel Washington. So may he rest in peace, and we note that he will be remembered throughout the years for those individuals who will be looking at getting into acting. Now, today is a special day in Barbados. It's called Errol Barrow Day. It is the birthday of our first Prime Minister, and he's called the father of independence. We do have quite a lot of history on the type of individual that um, Sir Errol Walton, Sir, the Right Honorable Errol Walton Barrow did for Barbados. In 1966, he helped Barbados become independent. So over the years, history has put him on the books. And just so you have a little bit of understanding of what he really did, I'm going to introduce a former minister, entertainer, social worker, a person who has been instrumental in many things within the culture of Barbados. He was the former Minister of Culture, John King, who I think at that time was known as General Boy, and he signed a tribute to the skipper.
Former slave ship under the Union Jack Barbados sailed, but trip after trip, exploitation still prevailed. 37 riots were burned to prove that slavery done. And then there came a skipper back there in 61 who freely taught his crew and fed the little ones too. Intent to break every chain, he set out to sea again. Hail the skipper elect. All hands on deck. You got to show the skipper respect. He took over when the bridge was down. He took over Bridgetown on a smooth voyage. He took over the bridge. Take over the bridge, skipper. Take over the bridge. Take over the bridge. We know you could get it, man. Her course with joy for independence Isle. Suddenly the shout came land ahoy. How well we will remember just how we disembarked in 66 November. He set up a great landmark and the Union Jack down it went. Up was the broken trident and catching the rising tide, sail within industry and pride. All hands on deck. Hail the skipper elect. All hands on deck. her respect. He took over when the bridge was down. He took over Bridgetown on a smooth voyage. He took over the bridge, take over the bridge, take over the bridge, take over the bridge. We know you can get it managed. Whoa, yo, yo. How his tired sailors did toil as his third voyage he did sail. But there came a crisis in oil and it began to blow a gale. He avoided mutiny with his able-bodied men facing their fussy scrutiny. He came to avoid and without bloodshed or stabbing, they called Brother Tom from his cabin. Yes, the skipper was overwhelmed. Brother Tom took up the helm. All hands on deck. Whoa, yo, hail the skipper elect. All hands on deck. You got to show the skipper respect. Oh, he took over when the bridge was down. He took over Bridgetown on a smooth voyage. He took over the bridge, take over the bridge, skipper, take over the bridge, take over the bridge.
Yes, he took over the bridge, Skipper. Errol Walton Barrow, of course, he was born this day, the 21st of January in 1920, the parish of St. Lucie, Barbados. And he was the fourth of five children born to the Reverend Reginald Grant Barrow and his wife Ruth Albertha O'Neill. Of course, Errol Barrow was born into a family of political and civic activists in the parish of St. Lucie. He became a World War II aviator, combat veteran, lawyer, politician, gourmet cook, and author. He was married to Carolyn Plaskett, and his sister was the late Dame Nita Barrow, who was also a, a nurse by profession. He founded the Democratic Labour Party and, of course, was a previous member of the Barbados Labour Party. He became the Prime Minister of Barbados in 1986 and was only in office for a year before his passing. So, for those who don't know much about the late Errol Walton Barrow, it is best that you pick up a book, Google, and read some more information on the um, the late Errol Walton Barrow. Now, further afield, we are going to come and bring it forward right now. Bringing it forward, the Prime Minister, Mia Amor Motley, called the election on the 27th of December 2021, which was a shock to the nation, unexpected. A lot was going on. The Barbados Labour Party had just finished trying to overcome the ash from the volcano in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Hurricane Elsa, the freak storms, and we are progressively still going into COVID-19 as well with the variants that are now coming up front. The last one that we've been told now is Omicron. So we know that there's a lot going on, and there were some events that took place. One of them, of course, with the nurses having two strikes. I think the last strike was sometime last week under the leadership of Senator Franklin, Caswell Franklin, and he has a union that stands up for the right of those that have been mistreated, etc., etc. A lot of people have different views on these nurses who would have taken a strike. One of the aspects that came out of all of this dispute is that they would not be paid remuneration if they remain on strike without having a discussion with the powers that be. There were other entities coming up, and of course, some people say in discussion, the reasoning behind calling an election is to get rid of what has been transpiring. The other aspect as well was that a lot of persons complained that things weren't going well, they weren't doing what they're supposed to. I think when the government came in 2018, they had the South Coast sewage problem, they had the garbage collection problem, they had the water problem, they had the repairs to the roads, they had lots. And then also we had lost the S&B, the S&P status with the ratings that had dropped tremendously. So a lot was going on. And when they came to be the government, they now had to review a lot of things that were going on. Now, be that as it may, they had 3.5 years, and of course, elections are called 2 years in advance. So I think what persons out there are saying is that you should always be ready. It's like a Christian. Christians tell you should be ready for Jesus when he comes a calling. For those that are baptized, would rise up first, and those who aren't, well, they say that they're going to hell. So it's all about preparedness. Even if you use the analogy of a hurricane, they always tell you be prepared. Hurricane season is from June to November, but that does not mean for you to be ready in June. They're asking you to be ready prior to that, so that if you need to get containers, bottles for water, tuna, sardines, things that you know that are non-perishable. You know that if you bought biscuits, those are going to eat out. And you purchase those closer to time. So of course, the opportunity is there for you to be prepared, to be ready for when any um, hurricanes, heaven forbid, should hit Barbados. Notably, we're only 166 square miles, and people say that God bless the island. It's not always that. Um, the way how things are today, and as we would have seen at COP26 when our Prime Minister went to Glasgow and spoke very, um, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not coming to mind. But she spoke in the sense that we within the region need as much assistance as possible, and we need the bigger countries to recognize how detrimental they are to the smaller islands, and that they need to look at themselves also in how they're affecting us within the lesser developed countries. Notably, she has been highly respected for her comments, and I think the world has realized that they really and truly need to change the way in how they do business and how they're affecting climate change. Now, in 2018, the unexpected slide of 30 candidates winning the seats for the Barbados Labour Party was a first time hit. I mean, for history. First time ever. Now, winning 30 seats for the Barbados Labour Party was the first thing for history, and also the leader of the opposition, then turned Prime Minister, Mia Motley, becoming the first female Prime Minister and the eighth Prime Minister for the island. That's commendable. Now, as I said earlier, we didn't expect to have an election during COVID 19. And this has been going on for 2 years. Other countries within the territory had elections. The Bahamas had elections. St. Lucia had elections. I think Jamaica had elections. And next month is Turks and Caicos. So life has to go on, and we have to try to live with it one way or the other, even with the new variants coming to the forefront. We now have to make sure that we are careful with what we're doing. Now, for those who may not have known, Elections were on Wednesday the 19th, which also, if a lot of persons did not realize the importance of that date, um, I think if my research hit on the pun, when you look at the history with the Barbados Labour Party, and I quote, following the Barbados Labour Party's defeat in the election held on the 15th of January 2008, Prime Minister Oinato laid down the mantle as the party leader. So he moved himself away as the party leader of the Barbados Labour Party. And Mia Amor Motley was chosen as the BLP party leader on the 19th of January 2008. Now, I think that's commemorative of the fact for her choosing the 19th of January 2008, sorry, 2022 for elections. I don't know if anybody else would look at it that way, but I am sure that for me, I thought it was quite interesting and notably found it, um, how should I put it, coincidental that she would choose the 19th of January because that's when she became the leader of the Barbados Labour Party. So she made history by becoming the first woman to lead the party as the first female opposition leader. She was sworn in as the opposition leader on the 7th of February 2008. On the 18th of October 2010, the appointment as leader of the opposition was revoked following a shift in support of five of her parliamentary colleagues, the former Prime Minister, who assumed the leadership position that same day, following a second election defeat on the 21st of February 2013. And again, she was selected as leader of the opposition. Now, if we really had to look at Mia Amor Motley, a lot of persons consider her to be a dictator. They consider for her to be a boss hog. They think of her as not the right individual to be the Prime Minister of Barbados. And I think what people have to realize at this point in time is that she has just set a mark and has now been globally recognized. Now, in in comparing the two leaders, one would have been Mia Moore Motley and the other Verla de Pisa, who became the leader of the opposition for the Democratic Labour Party. Her stint was very, very short. And if you go back to history, she ran in the Christchurch West constituency, and I think she lost it twice. And then recently, during these elections, moved up to St. Lucie. And she really wasn't from St. Lucie, reading um, information here. It said she was from St. James. So I'm not sure where persons would have gotten the details, but I think she had her reasoning about going and switching to St. Lucie. Now, a little bit between the two ladies, if you had to try to read to diversify the reasonings between both ladies and how persons would have chosen their representative, I think this is an aptitude to that. Mia Motley lived in the public life for most of her life. She was the first leader of the Barbados Labour Party and the opposition, first female Attorney General, a post she held for 5 years, and was also the youngest Queen's Counsel in Barbados. Born 1st of October 1965, educated at Maryville Private School, United Nations International School in New York, and Queens College here in Barbados. She subsequently obtained a law degree from the London School of Economics. In 1986, she finalized her training as an attorney and received a law degree from the London School of Economics. She is a lawyer by profession, having been called to the bar of England and Wales and in Barbados. She was admitted to practice in 1987 in Barbados. She practiced in St. Kitts and Nevis, in Vincent and the Grenadines, and Dominica. She's been influenced by her family. She is the granddaughter of Ernest Dighton Motley, who passed in 1973. He was a real estate broker as well as a successful politician. He was the first mayor of Bridgetown in 1959, who represented Bridgetown in the House of Assembly from 1946, and he belonged to the Conservative Party and helped the poor. He was granted the Ordinary Commander of Civil Division for Public Service in Barbados in June of 1962. He assisted Winter Algernon Crawford, Barbados' Trade Minister, at the Independent Conference in London during June and July of 1966. Motley's uncle, also named Ernest Dighton Motley, who passed in 2008, he was a refuge disposal officer who lived in Great Britain for 18 years. He became a political leader for a short-lived Christian Social Democratic Party, which was created in March of 1975. Her father, Elliot Dighton Motley, was also a barrister who sat in the House of Assembly, albeit for a relatively short time before vacating the seat to become Consul General in New York. He was educated at Eagle Hall School, Harrison's College, and Middle Temple in London, and served as Bermuda's Attorney General, sat on the Belize Court of Appeal. Now, Miss Motley entered Barbadian politics in 1991 and ran on the Barbados Labour Party ticket. She lost the election in St. Michael Northeast between herself and the late Leroy Bradford. 1991 to 1994, she was one of the two opposition senators in the upper house, where she was the shadow minister of culture and community development. She served on numerous parliamentary joint select committees on areas ranging from caviar larceny and domestic violence. In 94, she became one of the youngest Barbadians to be ever assigned to a ministerial portfolio at the age of 29. She was appointed to the Ministry of Education, Youth and Affairs and Culture. During her tenure, she co-authored a white paper on education titled Each Child Matters, that draws the link between better education and job fulfillment. She was then elected as General Secretary of the Barbados Labour Party 2 years later, in that same year, and again the following year, 1997. She was appointed Attorney General and Minister of Home Affairs in August of 2001, first female ever to hold this position. As Attorney General, she appeared before the Judicial Committee on the Privy Council in a constitutional capital punishment matter, one of the last matters coming from Barbados to be heard before the body. In addition, she was the agent of Barbados in international maritime arbitration between Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago under the United Nations Law of the Sea Convention. She has been credited with being the visionary behind the Education Sector Enhancement Program, popularly known as EduTech, which aims to increase the number of young people contributing to the island's sustainable social and economic development. At the community level, Ms. Motley founded the annual Lime Pelican Semi-Pro Football Challenge in 2011 and is the patron of the Linden Road Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to community causes. She is now not only the eighth Prime Minister, but holding that position for the ninth time under a new republic in Barbados. Let us look at her swearing in
That I will
2018.
be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors according to law. So help me God. I, Mia Amor Motley, being appointed Prime Minister, do swear that I will, to the best of my judgment, at all times when so required, freely give my counsel and advice to the Governor General or any other person for the
It took
time being
less
in
than a
office.
minute for the 52-year-old attorney to be sworn.
Now we know that was in 2018. So she got all 30 seats in 2018. Now, the disparity this time around was that we were looking at the fact that things weren't going so good. A lot of people were not seeing their representatives in the community and stuff like that. There we have the former Prime Minister from Australia, who was the seventh Prime Minister of Barbados. We we said, oh, a lot of people were saying she's not going to get back those 30 seats. And then the opposition leader, who rightfully would have been Reverend Joe Aberley of the ACLP, who joined together with Lynette Eastman, and they agreed that she would be the deputy in that party. Um, it's sad to say Barbados would not have three, four, or five parties. It has always been predominantly the Barbados Labour Party and the Democratic Labour Party, no matter how many little small parties come up. And they had quite a few that came up. Um, they had the Alliance People's Party, and they also had, let's see if I can remember their names, Solutions Barbados, and then they had a few independents, including Brian Talma. Then they had the New Barbados Kingdom Alliance, as well as the Lone Runner, um, an entertainer who all of us know from Troubadours, Michael Thompson, in the Barbados Sovereignty Party. And I think the other one was the Barbados Free Party. I got lost along the way with all the little ones that came up. So many Barbadians were only looking at those that were familiar to. So the Democratic Labour Party, led by Rolla de Pisa and her 29 candidates who came out. They had the return of Michael Ashley, Dennis Lowe, and Dr. Estwick to the forefront. And they also had former Prime Minister Del Stewart spoke at a spot meeting in hopes, I suppose, in getting the public, those persons, to really and truly try to hear their views on what they would do for the country. The Barbados Labour Party brought out their manifesto, and then they brought out theirs, and everybody said they brought out theirs because they wanted to see what they had in theirs so that they would put the same thing in theirs. People said that they really didn't have much to say, and the public seemed to be more comfortable with the representation of the Mia Motley led party. And the morning of 20th of January, this was what happened.
Scenes of jubilation at the BLP's headquarters after the party secured its second successive 30-0 victory at the polls. The celebrations kicked off around 10 p.m. when the preliminary results began to reflect another Barbados Labour Party victory. Roebuck Street was flooded with a red sea of eager BLP supporters awaiting the arrival of the triumphant team. The final results were declared in the wee hours of the morning, and shortly after announcing the winning team, Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley took to the stage to deliver an impassioned victory speech. Reflecting on the 3 weeks of intense political campaigning, she said the electorate has chosen its leader.
We stand today on the morning of the 20th of January, confident that the people of this nation have spoken with one voice, decisively, unanimously, and clearly.
She thanks the people of Barbados for staying the course and reinforcing their confidence in the Barbados Labour Party.
We want each and every one of us to thank the people of Barbados for the confidence that they continue to repose in us, to be able to lead this country first to safety and then to prosperity.
While noting the party's success, Prime Minister Motley acknowledged there is still much work to be done. She said the BLP remains committed to carrying Barbados forward.
Now, in those 30, I think they had four new candidates. Kay McConey, who replaced John King, Christopher Gibbs versus Michael West, Corey Lane for the city of Bridgetown, who replaced Lieutenant Colonel Bostic, and trying to see, there was a chap. His name was White. He was, oh there, Ishmael. I think that's his name. He was Ishmael. Just trying to make sure I have the right names. He was Davidson Ishmael, who replaced Ronald Topping. So I think persons were saying, oh, we've got some new faces here, and they were expecting that the stalwarts from the Democratic Labour Party would have gotten those seats. Mind you, Dr. Sonia Brown had an up and down with um, Michael Lashley in St. Michael North and Kay McConey for St. Philip West was battling with Dr. David Estridge. A lot of people were expecting him to beat her because they were looking at the fact that he'd be very good par for um, or the Prime Minister, yeah, Motley. And we know that unexpectedly, everyone, including the new candidates, got back in to government. Of course, when you look at when we had election, with the fact that they had COVID-19, they gave people the mindset to say, but you have an election, you got COVID-19 and all these protocols, and the numbers are going up. I think the day before it was 677 persons who were affected with COVID-19. So it said to people, well, I ain't going out there because I don't want to vote. I don't want to catch COVID just to put my X for a vote. Then there were a couple of persons, I think there was one independent who, from the St. Thomas constituency, went to court the night before election to postpone the election, claiming that it was not fair for those who were not able to come out to vote because they were in home isolation because they tested positive, and even those that were in the hospital would not be able to come out to vote. Now, I don't know what you folks think about it, but I think it's a bit hard and fast. I don't know. And of course, the judge deemed that they had no jurisdiction to come to the court and deal with that. They would have to take it to a different um, court, as far as we are concerned. So, be that as it may, the Barbados Labour Party has won again, and the Prime Minister chose Dale Marshall once again as the Attorney General of Barbados, and they were sworn in.
But I must tell you, it places a tremendous burden. And I have given the commitment. I gave it on the 27th of May 2018, and I give it again now, that I have to be the government's chief opposition when necessary, because the one thing I know.
They were sworn in yesterday morning with some family members present, as well as the Minister of Business, Sandra Bradshaw, who got back her seat, and a few other members, I think. Not all, but I think on Monday they will be having the swearing in of the members of Parliament on Bay Street. So we hope that persons will follow that aspect. And a note that Dr. George Bell mentioned about revamping and looking at themselves and how they will get back the trust of the people. And it's imperative that it shows that these folks were not interested in the people at all. Um, they spoke of self. They did not speak of how they would work together as a unit, how they will work together to build Barbados and continue to build Barbados. Now, I think Dr. George Bell's advice is very sound. I'm not sure if those members of the Democratic Labour Party will take note. I hope they will. They do have some that are honest, and you know, persons like Hartley Henry and Christopher Sinclair. These individuals saw that things were going awry, and they didn't like it. Yes, they are members of the Democratic Labour Party, and they want to be just and be able to serve. But if the right things aren't going the way they should be, and to have a united front, sad to say that a lot of them either left or separated themselves from the party. Now, a note from Dr. George Bell on how they can probably look at it and what really happened to the Democratic Party.
Recognizing that development requires you to be able to analyze properly the future of your society. And on the basis of that, you build a fresh, energetic program and something that you can campaign politically upon. Now, when you don't do that, you end up like scraping the barrel and coming with things that have been exhausted probably for decades. I don't think also that you necessarily have to reject Errol Barrow. It is that you have to be able to interpret how to carry forward his ideas into the 21st century.
That's powerful, powerful, powerful. And I think that that's something that they will have to learn to take away with them. Hopefully, they will. Unfortunately, the news today is that Verla de Pisa has resigned as the president of the Democratic Labour Party. So presently, a meeting is going on at the George Street Auditorium with the members in choosing a new president for the Democratic Labour Party. So persons, you need to be glued to your television and the radio to find out who will take up the helm for the Democratic Labour Party. So, a blast from the past, and I know a lot of you Barbadians love this, we call it franchise. So something I found I wanted to share with you folks. I hope you would enjoy it.
No, oh no.
Home of the heavenly jacket.
I know most of you may not have remembered that, but a lot of you enjoyed Chicken Barn and they started to give you these little spot advertising. And I came across that by accident actually, and I said I would share it with you. It's not a promotional video. It's just I found it and I thought it was funny. And I hope you enjoyed reminiscing what it was like seeing that ad and note that person still enjoyed Chicken Barn. I think they've got various locations now. They still have the historical point, which is in Bay Street, and the other one is in Worthing. I think they have Coverley, um, Wilby, as well as Warrens. And I think, oh, the bottom of University Hill. So you've got various areas in which to go out there and you can still, patronize Chicken Barn. I think now they also do home deliveries. So go out there and still support a local restaurant, Chicken Barn. And of course, I like the rotisserie chicken, and I know you all do. So, news for today: Verla de Pisa has resigned as the president of the Democratic Labour Party. We now will be poised to see what is going to happen with that position. And I know a lot of my friends out there, especially in Canada. I have a dear friend of mine who called me every day or most days to find out what was happening. And he wanted the views of what was the Barbados Labour Party doing and how are they going to change things. I mean to say they have changed things. So don't think that we're not going to move forward. You know, there's a lot to be done. We will see. The people have spoken. They've made their choice, and that is of the Mia Amor led government. The candidates are there. We wait and see who will be taking up the various portfolios, and we want to wish them well. I don't know if it's coincidental. Everything's coincidental. I have red wine, which I would make a toast to the new um, government. Second time, 5 years. Let's hope and pray that they continue to get it right. And we all know that we definitely going to have this because we have made a mark in finance, international trade, tourism, and we're praying that with all of the new things coming up, we know things are going to change. It's not everything we will agree with, that's guaranteed. But if we are going to be moving forward for the better, it is better right now with the Liam Mortley led government that we have. So remember, we got this.
I feel make it. We have no other choice but to be strong.
We're gonna make it.
What do you mean? Why God?
I am a voice of hope, and I just wanna let you know that I believe in our strength as a people and the promise of a bright tomorrow.
And I want you to believe and trust.
I know God is watching over us, and I believe if we all come together now, everything will be alright. If we only press on,
Strengthen the bond and the ties among this generation.
unite and be one, the fight will be won.
Come on, Caribbean.
Don't worry about the circumstances, don't stress about the fears and the madness. Together we will take our chance at life and conquer this. Don't worry about
That song is synonymous to what is going on right now, and we know other islands across the Caribbean have been watching, and we know that they're going to be looking to see what our next step will be. They say Rome was not built in a day. We have to be patient and, of course, know that as time progresses, we are going to make it. Now, the show is going to be coming up again soon. We're going to be having some guests in between, and there are going to be some times when you will have the opportunity to join us on the show and give your take on your thoughts on what's happening across the island and across the region as well as the world. Right now, I know that everybody is just trying to soak in what has happened after the election. So, folks, stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you for the next show.